For my brothers never had an ear to hear them. These the bricks for our sisters help us build it. If I could be a black fly on the wall, I can hear and see it all and have the mind of a god. Black, 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 black. Fly, 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 fly. Black, black, black.
Welcome to another episode of Black Fly on the Wall. It's your boy Lyde. I'm your host. Today we're having a conversation with some gentlemen here to talk about our first experience with love. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. We gratefully appreciate it. I got my boy, co-host Pierre to my right. Introduce yourself, P.
Pierre Bless, home care agency owner, Charlotte, North Carolina, rapper, entrepreneur, spread love is the brand. Black Fly.
Much love. To my far right, Keith, introduce yourself.
Keith Manley, artist, entrepreneur. Finesse University is the brand, and I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. My boy Shaun, introduce yourself.
Shaun Draughn from Tarboro, North Carolina. Went to UNC, played football. 7-year NFL vet, now a builder, investor.
Nice. I appreciate y'all boys for being here, man.
Absolutely. Appreciate
Keith,
you.
welcome back.
Appreciate you.
And so today's conversation is our first experience with love. This conversation is needed because not all times do you see black men discussing love, right? And if we are discussing it, it's from the point of view of love with a significant other, a wife, a girlfriend, a fiance. But not often do we talk about like the genesis of where we first experienced that love or how that love has grown and how that love has shifted. But love is a process, right? And as we age as men and we mature, how we see love shifts, right? Well, our love as children is our love a lot of times with our mother, our auntie, our grandmother, our father, our uncle. It then progresses to your adolescence years of, you're loving a significant other, and then you get married, and then when you have children, I haven't experienced that just yet, hopefully soon, but your love for your child
Absolutely
differs from your love from what I understand, from anything else in the universe. Different. It's a different type of love. And so the genesis of how we experience that love is key. Keith, what would you say your first experience with love was?
I got to be real. It's got to be from my mom, right? I think that's the first experience any young man gets is through your mother. And then obviously right after that, for me, it's my dad. And I think both of those loves were shown in completely different ways. My mom showed love by obviously nurture and really just being there as an emotional support system for me. My dad more so showed me love by not what he did for me, but also what he wouldn't do in a lot of ways. Where he would, and a lot of those things I didn't really get a chance to appreciate until I got old enough to realize and look around and see how difficult it is for other young men to operate because they, weren't able to figure things out from an early age. So these are things that, I appreciate so much in my life now is being able to problem solve and, come up with solutions on my own. And if I do need to talk to somebody, I got him or I got my mom as an emotional support system.
And you gained that lens too through your work in Charlotte, right?
Absolutely. And
working with the adolescents, man.
Exactly. And I think that's the follow-up is that when I got a chance to start doing mentorship with teenage boys, underprivileged, I saw the thing that they missed the most and that they yearn for. A lot of times,
won't say it.
Exactly, at 15, 14 years old, when they're getting introduced to discipline by a man that they don't really know or have a whole lot of rapport with, you feel a lot of combat.
Absolutely.
You feel a lot of headbutting. It's like, I'm the man of the house. Or, who is this dude? Who are you? But when you start to, kind of lean into them and be more vulnerable with them, and then let it be known that you actually are coming from a genuine place. It's not I'm trying to rule over you. Right. I'm just trying to show you what I wish somebody would have shown me a little bit earlier. Right. Then they start almost leaning into that discipline a little bit more. Now they want to, sit up a little bit straighter and kind of follow your lead. So these are just things I'm grateful for to have the experience.
What about you, Shaun? What was your first experience with love?
Same. I would have to say the same thing. My dad, my mom, definitely they showed myself and my siblings a tremendous amount of love, and kind of the same thing. My dad was a different type of love where, it was a disciplinary type of love. I would say it was tough love because he definitely, got spankings, but is keeping us from stuff later on that we didn't realize. You know, we thought he was just being mean. We used to call him Mean Joe Green back in the day, but we saw what he was keeping us from, and you know, I implement those things, you know, with my kids, and with my mom, it was more so the nurturing, the cuddling, I'm gonna buy you this, and you know, type of thing. And my dad was like, look, if it weren't for your mom, you wouldn't have a lot of stuff you got. So
we had no clothes.
We had none. You have one T-shirt, one pair of pants, you'd be good for the year. But my mom, she was that person though, and she cared that we cared to look a certain way, or you know, certain things we wanted. My dad would look, as long as the lights on, you got water, food. That's his job. But you know, both of them showed love, man. And even with my dad, like spending time. You know, I remember small things like going to the arcade, playing pool, playing basketball with me, throwing the football in the backyard, taking me to, you know, men's ministry because my dad's a pastor, and taking me to men's ministry and, you know, showing me how to be a man.
For sure.
And also the love that he showed my mom. And like, I laugh now because I'm my kids, because when I'm showing Shonda love, I'm like, I'm on her. Like, that's the way I show love. Right. And my dad did the same thing with my mom. I didn't like it then, but it was like, you know, my kids are the same way right now. It's funny, but yeah, definitely my mom and my dad.
Nice. Now, what about you, P?
I guess I'm gonna take a different perspective on it because they both stole my answer. I knew we was all going that way, so I'm gonna say family. Yeah. Because I also came in this world with an older sibling already, so you know that was like my best friend. Sure. You know, because that's the first person you see outside of your parents is your sibling. If you got an older one, or if you're that to a new one, then they see you first, and then you know that's a different type of love. So to this day, our family bond is crazy, and the love started there, and it's still here, deeper than you know any friends that I actually have. I got some brothers, you know what I'm saying, sisters, all that, but like ain't nothing like that family love.
Yeah. It's not.
It's deep, man. You can trust your family, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it ends up being. Like, y'all remember in the beginning when we didn't have friends outside of the household, that's all we had was family.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. You couldn't go nowhere. You
yeah.
couldn't escape that. When y'all butted heads, you had to make up and figure it out.
You're going to see him down the hallway.
Exactly. And you go in the room and shut the door, but you got to
come back out here.
I'm going to see you at dinner.
Keep him on the table.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And that leads me to the love that we gain through friendships, through brotherhood. Yeah. So I would say, like with me, just establishing true friendships with true men has allowed me to, you know, to gain that love for other men, right? Other like-minded men. Absolutely. And it's a genuine love. It's a genuine, I want to see you do the best in life. It's a genuine, I'm concerned with your safety. It's a genuine, I'm concerned with your well-being, your mental well-being. If you need something, you can call me. I'm going to be there. I'm concerned with just how you produce and how you represent yourself in life. And I think that's a love that a lot of men oftentimes don't resonate with because they feel that emotion or that feeling as being awkward. Right. Or they feel that emotion or feeling of, they run from it versus embrace it. Yeah. And what I would like to tell a lot of young men is like the same, if you have a brother or a cousin, that same love you have for him is the same love you will gain for other men as you progress through your manhood. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So I think, but that also like leads me to believe is that, do you, especially with you, Keith, with your work in Charlotte, with young men, do you feel like it's a lack of emotional intelligence from a lot of young men to where whenever they start transitioning into manhood, they really don't know how to deal with their emotions that they gain from other men?
100%.
Especially if it's a man, especially if it's a young man, that his choice is to identify as straight heterosexual male. Yep. And then he starts to feel an emotion for another man, not an emotion that's relatable to him being homosexual. And if that's his choice, that's his choice. Right. But he's genuinely not feeling that. He's honestly just feeling the love for another man as a true friend or a true brother. But since a lot of times they lack that emotional nurturing as young kids, they don't know how to feel.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. You know? I think you had it's so easy to it's easier when it's shown to you. As he was saying, he saw his dad, you know, loving on his mom. He saw his dad, the love that he showed him. And the same with my dad. You know, my dad, whenever I see him now, when I come to the house, he'll give me a hug, give me a kiss, you know, right on the cheek. I mean, these kids, 14, 15 years old now, teenagers growing up now, a lot of them without fathers, they would look at that like it's crazy. I would have friends come home from college. You know, a lot of my teammates in college would come home, and at some point, my dad started looking at them as sons. So he might do the same. He would see, they would see my dad give me a kiss on the cheek, and it would kind of probably throw them off like for a second. Yeah. But then they almost were like, damn, like, you know, that's the type of relationship they have. And so it was just, I think,
like, I want that.
Yeah, and you could see that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think the example is so important. It's so important. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head.
Because it sets a standard for
exactly
for how you show love. Like, it's not a coincidence that your fathers operated in a certain light, and P, I think you may be able to relate to the same, is that they operated in a certain light, and now that's your standard and that's your level of expectation of love.
Exactly.
Yep, absolutely.
And I think I think that is, of course, a lot of times when we start looking at problems with crime, problems with socioeconomic status,
100%.
problems with abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse. Many times it relates to the representation of the man in the home.
Absolutely.
Or the proper representation, because sometimes every situation is not equal. So a lot of times they be like, well, if you just put a man in the home, that'll fix the problem.
Yeah.
But the man has to give a positive, have to be a positive representation of what that young man should be.
Yeah, the same thing. You know, you say it has to be the right representation, because you saw an example, I saw an example, and the person who is, you know, maybe abusive to their kids or their wife, they saw an example as well. Yep. And they're living out their example, and that's just the example that they had. And it's unfortunate, but you're
they're replicating that process, they're replicating that behavior.
Yep.
P, what is your I think we all can relate on this, is that we talked about love with our mothers, and I think I didn't speak on that, but that was my first love as well. And I think that love strengthened through my adolescence, because I saw my mom raise 3 kids as a single mother.
Yep.
I saw her make sacrifices. I saw her do all these things. So where I get my grit and my tenacity and my resilience from is from my mom. So I also was able to gain some other characteristics there. So we talked about love from mothers, fathers. We talked about love and transitions when it comes down to with friendships, but hobbies and passions is another love. So Shaun, you played at UNC, and you have a great love for football.
Right.
When did you first fall in love with football?
Early age.
Out the womb.
Since I can remember, I mean, I watched football. My granddad, my dad, and you know, we grew up Cowboys fans, so we were watching Cowboys. And not no more.
Smart man.
Sorry.
Smart man. It's too much stress, man.
Yeah, it is.
Too much stress being a Cowboys
Y'all gonna
fan.
win every year. Don't win nothing.
No.
I know. He's been in the league,
fans,
so like
too.
he had to switch teams.
Yeah.
That's real.
I actually had a chance to go to the Cowboys. I was undrafted, so I had a whole bunch of teams I could have chose from, and that's a whole nother story. But, where was I going? I forgot.
You're talking about when you first fell in love with football.
Yeah. I mean, watching it with my dad, and you know, I had 2 older sisters, and I didn't have a brother to play football with, so I would be in the living room tackling my sisters. I used to put my mom and dad to tell you, I used to put socks in my shirt to make it look like shoulder pads, and I'd be in there just doing from as early as I can remember. I fell in love with football, man, and you know, I feel like even when I was young, I knew I was going to make it, to the NFL.
What was that feeling when you finally? What was that moment? That feeling when you finally signed with a team and you finally made it to the NFL?
It wasn't real to me until I actually was about to run out the tunnel. I remember, it's crazy you asked me that. I was ended up signing with the Redskins, and it was only a preseason game. I was like, bro, I'm about to walk out the tunnel. I'm looking at people in the stadium. I see other guys dressed up in an NFL uniform, and it's like, bro, this is really happening.
It's real.
Like, I'm really in the NFL right now. Like what I dreamed of. I get emotional talking about it because I honestly dreamt of this. Like I wanted to make it to the NFL so bad. My parents, supported. They love me regardless of where I make it, past high school. But, to have a dream, express that dream, and, work towards that dream. And, a lot of people along the way supported that dream. And then to, see it manifest was huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And P, do you feel like your love for music is the same? or would you say that just in general, when it comes down to business, you fall in love with that?
It ain't nothing like really sexy about or fulfilling with business and music. You know what I'm saying? But like, it's really similar to your NFL dream. You know what I'm saying? I done been places where I dreamed of since I started or picked the mic up or started freestyling at 12 years old. And I'm like, man, I really did this. Okay, I've been in Source, you know what I'm saying? Like articles and Complex and on stage with, you know, different people who I'm like, man, this is crazy, you know, going back and forth with Fab on the gram. Like, you know, it's like, it's crazy. People who I looked up to just because you step into different places, but it's like, I put my heart into it, so it like keep me alive. And I tried to stop rapping. Like, I didn't rap for like 3 years one time. And I was opening a tech company, and so I did that, and it was getting hard to raise money. It's just, it's different worlds for black men everywhere. You know, I'm like, you know, people was getting money for stupid apps, and I had this brilliant one, and it was hard for me to raise the money. I couldn't see why. I'm like, okay, I hit this pitfall, so I'm going to pivot again. So then I stopped, you know, recollected, and went back to my love, and then things started taking off. So I went all the way in, you know, and I'm still not at the top, but I've seen a lot that a lot of people haven't seen, you know what I'm saying? And it feels good every time I do it.
Absolutely. Right. Keith, do you feel like it's a difference between experiencing love with your passion or hobby versus being in love with it?
That's a good question.
That is a great question. I think to some degree, honestly, I feel like it's important to almost fall out of love with your passion sometimes, because I think when you're in love, it's like almost like romantic, and it's like a movie, and it's like, you know, there's this like unrealistic expectation of it. When you love it, it's almost like you're going to do it regardless. You know, it's like with the ups and downs, the trials and errors, like I'm going to figure this thing out, and I'm here for the ride. Being in love is very fun until it's not no more.
Phase.
Exactly.
That's true. Because you can be in a honeymoon phase with your passion.
Yes.
So you excited about it, you watching videos on it, you got the TikToks, you got the notes, and then whenever you're doing that budget,
Exactly.
or you hit that first roadblock, or
The hard stuff.
stuff.
We start comparing ourselves, man, you know, like when you in these places, because it's like, whether you want to rap, act, play ball, it's like, man, I'm looking at other people, and it's like, I'm better than them. Like, why hadn't I? And when I pass that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to just do the best that I can do. And my best is going to be better than a lot of people.
Sure.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's when it feels good. If I'm just my only competition and stop comparing myself, then you'll get rid of that anxiety and stress and all that.
It'll be regressive if you don't.
Exactly.
You know, you're trying to just beat them. No, I'm trying to be myself. I'm going to be the best I can be, you know, in that moment.
I mean, it's so many guys in the league that they made it. They're in the league, they making the money, they own the roster, and they still comparing themselves to the top dog in that league. Whereas you can be a star player on the Make the All-Star team, make first or second team in the NBA, but you're still comparing yourself to Bron. You're still comparing yourself to Steph. You know, sometimes like there has to be a level of satisfaction that you have with yourself. Not complacency, but you know what? Like, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of what I've done. I'm going to continue to work hard. I'm going to continue to grind.
Yeah,
for sure.
But comparison is what can almost make you, what's the word I'm looking for? It almost can make you not satisfied with the stuff you have that you have achieved.
Yeah, that's where I was headed to, too.
Short
like,
goals.
Everybody has a different sense of making it. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I've made it. If I want to compare myself, I'm happy with what I've done. You know what I'm saying? Like, and making it might be being LeBron James, or making it might be Gary Payton, or you know what I'm saying? Or like you just make it to D-League, you know what I'm saying?
Or making it could be,
and that's dope.
Making it could be financial independence.
Yeah, taking care of your family.
Like, it's so many guys that be like, I don't care about winning the championship.
Right.
Yep.
I don't care. I care about my great grandkids having. So I'm gonna go to the Sarge team, and I'm gonna sign a $200 million deal every time.
Yeah.
And I'd rather walk away with the coins than walk away with the jewelry.
For sure.
Yeah.
And
sometimes you got to give yourself grace.
Yes.
All the
that's
time.
amazing. Every day.
Every day.
Especially as men, it's because, you know, if we're really living in our manhood, we're naturally taking on a level of responsibility.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that responsibility comes with risk. A lot of that responsibility comes with pressure. A lot of that responsibility comes with a lot of lonely thoughts, and the form of more so of how can I make this happen not for me, but typically it's for somebody else.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
And that is something that we're born with innately.
Right.
You know, so we have to continue to look for areas and look for ways to be mindful, be appreciative, and to make sure that we're writing off those small wins.
712 Vodka, distilled only once from Blue Ridge Mountain Water. Alkaline and gluten-free, 712 Vodka is perfect for sipping or mixing. When you want to enjoy the finer things in life, serve up 712 Vodka and reflect with us on the happenings that have made you who you are.
Yeah.
Because like you'll see a lot of like new entrepreneurs and stuff, and they like my own hometown or my friends ain't actually like they're not supporting me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like
Jesus wanted to set his own time. So
thank you.
Exactly.
That's real.
You ain't no different.
And
There's a whole
those ain't the
another
people
podcast.
if you really want to grow and scale, you need to be getting your new customers need to be strangers.
Yeah.
Think about it though. It's
Absolutely.
billions of people in this world, and we're always overly concerned about the 10
Yeah.
from the hometown,
Yeah.
the 10 from the group chat, the 10 from. Whereas you can actually push yourself to establish much more reach,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and don't overly concerned about those around you. They'll come when the massive success comes.
Yeah.
Right. It's sad, but that's the
It's,
truth.
it's human. It's human behavior.
Yeah.
And sometimes that stuff comes from the people that are closest to you. They look at you a certain way because they have so much history with you that they can't look at you on another level. I can only
'Cause I'm still
imagine.
at this level, and now he's at this
Right.
level.
It just it doesn't sit right with them.
Like that's still Sean.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's okay. Like,
Right.
F it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Well,
like,
also
yo,
too,
you
it's
better with
about
that.
about how you go into business. Like, because if you go into business with the mindset that my friends and my family and my associates are going to support every single thing that I do, that is an unrealistic expectation.
For sure.
So, like, at first, it's about establishing the expectations that we're supposed to have going into business, going into relationships, going into family, going into fatherhood, whatever it may be. The things that we love and the things that we fall in love with is all about the expectation. Like you said, everything that you love is not going to love you back. Right. So we have to make sure that we can live with that.
Yes.
Like, if you like for with you, if you love football and you were in love with football so much, you love it so much that you would take the risk that it would never love you back at the level that you gave it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, even though I had the dream, that it wasn't necessarily in stone that the dream was going to come true. But I'm putting in the work in order to get to that point. And if I don't, I shouldn't have any regrets.
What was the process for you pivoting from the league, pivoting from playing football
What
to
was the
real
what?
estate? The process. How was your process?
It was
of
a
pivoting?
tough process. It was a tough process. I mean, it's literally like somebody dying. Like I did this since 4th grade. Well, before 4th grade, I started tackle in 4th grade. But like I said, I was playing football in the house since an early age.
True.
And to, not be able to do that, at a high level, and then, like you said, there's a point where you're taking care of your family now with football. It's not just a passion. It's a job and a passion. And then that's taken away from you. And now you got to figure out another passion and another job. You feel me? And I think for me, it was definitely tough. I went through some darker times where I didn't have anybody necessarily to relate to, even though there was other people that, went through the same thing I went through. I didn't want to, as a man, right? You don't want to talk to, you don't want to share your friends
For sure.
necessarily. And the only reason I knew that I was going through those times was I blew up at my wife, and that's not me at all. And it was something simple. I'm in there playing the guitar, and I think we were getting ready for church or getting ready to go somewhere, and Shonda comes in there. It was like, I think she asked like, "Are you gonna help with the kids?" or something like that. Man, I blew up. I said, I come here to play the guitar. You messing with me? And I just blew up. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I blew up. And then after the fact,
All right,
I'm
now
like,
Shonda cut you off.
hey, that's her. And I was like, man, it's something going on,
Internally.
Yeah.
But
But
you weren't fulfilled.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't. But the guitar was my escape.
Right.
And I realized she interrupted that
Right.
at that time. And because that. Yeah, I wasn't doing anything, and then she, started to take off with real estate, and then my purpose purpose had to change. And you know, I got into real estate while I was playing, but not heavy like I am now. But you know, it happened for a reason. The way I ended up getting into it.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
I got a question.
It was definitely a process for me to be able to.
Y'all, like anybody, but do you feel like you can fall in love with new passions? Because you know, all of us here, we got dreams. You know, of course, things that we hit next level and all. But like, it's new passions and things. Do you feel like you can fall in love with something else, just like you did with your first passion?
Mm-hmm. I think there's purpose, there's passion, and I think your purpose is way bigger than your passion. Because your passion can be a big flame, and then it can be a little flame.
Yes,
I like that.
Yes,
I like that.
And I think, you know, with that, yeah, I think you can start to like other stuff and love other stuff. Because I love real estate. Like I got into it and realized, like, man, I really like this. I got into it investing, but then I started doing like the actual GC side of it. It's like, man, I really like this. You know, I'm a people person. I love talking with people. You know, it's different backgrounds of people. And my wife tell you, I never meet a stranger. So, you know, I love talking to people, getting different perspectives. And, you know, I'm not going to say it's not a passion, but I do love doing what I do now. Not as much as football, of course, because that was a lifelong dream.
For sure.
Right. But now my focus has shifted. My reasoning behind what I'm doing has shifted. And, yeah, I really love what I do.
What about you, Keith?
I think now at this point, I do feel like you can fall in love and have like new loves. Like, because right now I think the biggest thing for me, right now I throw events. Like I do create, I like to set up and organize events for other creatives to bring their brand. And, you know, we do open bar situation where you can set up and you can get your brand out there, meet new people, all that stuff. And we did the last one in Charlotte last month, did one in Los Angeles in January. And we're just gonna keep this thing moving. I see so much going on in LA that I feel like we can attribute to this culture in Charlotte, North Carolina, or anywhere. And I just want to bring it all back. So the thing I'm falling in love with now is the process of building something and then seeing it come to fruition. You know what I mean? Like
birthing it.
That process.
That's the thing.
That's why I like real estate.
I can only imagine. I can only
see
imagine.
it go from dirt to
Exactly. And that's crazy.
Somebody else wants to have.
yes.
And that's free game right there. That's the answer, which y'all just said to the question when people ask. So if you're listening, how do I find a passion? How do I find my purpose? You got to keep going. You got to keep building and working.
And
Showing it's possible.
And what's synonymous to what both of you all are saying, you're talking about real estate, you're talking about creativity, but both of you all are serving.
Absolutely.
And so whenever you're serving, and that means that you're putting somebody else before you to also have an undertone of fulfilling you. Like it's like you're taking care of yourself and other people. Like you're basically a servant in the community because you're shifting other people's lives so that then they can go and sow seeds and shift somebody else's life. And then they go sow seeds and shift somebody else's life. So your one act of good is multiplying 10, 20, 100-fold simply because you sowing the right seeds, you tilling the soil, and you reaping the harvest.
That's right.
You know, Jim Rohn talked about recently what I heard is that, you know, if you want to experience spring, you got to experience fall. And that's something that'll never change.
Can't skip the process.
As long as the universe is existent on this planet, that is something that will never change.
Right.
Fall always comes after summer. Spring always comes after fall. That's right. So we have to make sure that spring always comes after winter. So we always have to make sure that we are transitioning and going through that process of learning, accepting the seasons that we're in, and continuing to reap the good seeds that we sow is because, you know, we can put in all the work, but if we have the expectation that we'll never experience trials with the things that we love, that's unrealistic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like anybody that's whose father was a farmer or grandfather was a farmer or been around or been on the farm at all, you know that the bugs and the weeds come in the summertime. So if you were a farmer and you sowed these seeds in the spring, and why would you not expect bugs and weeds in the summertime?
Correct.
So that means that you're operating in life, you're doing yourself a disservice because you have these dreams and passions that you fell in love with or that you love, and you don't experience to have the trials and tribulations to come along with that to where you have to nurture and cater to that goal during the hard times the same way a farmer has to cater to that garden and that field during the summertime.
Absolutely. But you got to live life in order to experience seasons, right?
Yes. You have to continue to live.
So people don't go through those experiences so they don't know.
Right.
Yeah, and then they don't grow from it because they don't learn from it, you know.
And then when that first challenge gets, that first hard challenge gets to them, they just don't even, they turn right back around and retreat.
Because they want instant gratification
Yes.
this time.
And I will say, I think that sports really teaches you that from an early age, is that, look, you know, going through those practices, even just trying to build up to a championship team. Oh my God. Like,
practice be terrible.
Nobody wants to do that.
Nobody.
My first day of college workouts, I honestly thought about going back to Target.
I mean, but it's something that it's a necessary evil, because when you start seeing how much it goes towards the big picture, then you start appreciating it. It don't mean you gotta like it. You don't like it anymore, but you understand why you got to go through it.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important thing.
I think it's you. Once you define you can define what you love, because self-love is essential to all things, right? So you can't really establish what true love is about until you establish what self-love is for yourself.
Sure.
So once you say, okay, this is what I love about myself. I love the attributes that, if you in high school, I love that I can run fast, I can jump high. I got grit. I don't quit in my workouts. Those are things you love about yourself. Right. Those things can then permeate into your reality to being a good football player, a good basketball player, a good track star, right? Yeah. Because you know the things that you love about yourself. And I think sometimes in creativity and business and the things that we love, we oftentimes don't establish what we love about ourselves. We more so look at the things that we can fix. But you haven't really identified what you love about yourself.
Man, that's crazy.
Like, we could take a poll right now. When was the last time that we looked at the things that we love about ourselves in comparison to the times that we said, I need to improve in this?
I don't lie, because I think, just for me, I'm just super competitive.
Yeah.
So you're a person that's always looking for improvement.
Always trying to get better.
Mm-hmm. Always trying to get better.
Yeah. And
when was the last time you checked the box of, you're doing this well?
No, I definitely do that now.
Good.
Yeah, I definitely do it now. But before, like, you know, through the process, what you were talking about, transitioning, I can't look at this small win, because this small win ain't get me to where I would need to be or want to be, to where I almost felt, fulfilled, like, okay, now I'm kind of coming out of that.
Do you feel like men a lot of times fall in love with the grind versus sometimes we don't want to take the risk of appreciating the small win because that may cost us the big win. So a lot of times we fall in love with the repetition of the grind.
Yeah.
So we got to be grinding to get to where we want where we want to be. But a lot of times if we let go of things, I think we talked about it in the previous episode, is that letting go is just as powerful as grinding to get something.
Man, that's deep. I think sometimes there's a fear of letting it go, or going backwards. Once you
taking a step back.
It's like celebrating after you hit a shot. I never was really big into celebrating while the game is going on, because I always feel like, okay, it's next play.
I gotta get back on defense.
Exactly. Because the minute you start celebrating, they throwing it up the court, it's an easy break, and that could cost you the game.
That's a perfect analogy.
You know what I'm saying?
I think we just get settled in our ways, and you got to realize that you got to reset.
Exactly.
When you sit back and look at the world and then look at yourself, you're like, okay, now I know what's going on out here. I can look at me internally. What can I do now? You know what I'm saying? I'm in one of them stages now, but I'm always in it because I feel like we always are improving. We're always growing. Everything's always changing. Inflation just happened. It's like, okay, what I got to do to set back now? Because now I got to see how I can make more bread to go against what's coming, because it's here, you know?
Absolutely.
I think the expectation has to be that evolution is key. Evolution is key to what's happening over here on side A is also happening on side B from two different perspectives. Like, everybody is growing. Right, so a kid is growing in their own world that they're associated with, whether they're in elementary school or going from daycare to elementary school, and we're growing in our professional life, whether we're trying to sell 5 houses a month, 10 houses a month, 15 houses a month, 25 houses a month. It's always a growth, and no matter what area you look back in your life, you was always growing. But it's all about determining the mindfulness that you have established during your growth periods, because many times men fall short of being mindful of the moments that they're in. And that really is what leads to the pressures, the anxieties, the depressions, the all of those things that are negatively negate our present and our future is simply because we're not mindful of the moments, because we always feel like we have to be in that rat race of what's next. That's true. Whereas we don't really celebrate the small things. We were talking about atomic habits earlier.
Yeah.
That's what Atomic Habits is about. It's about doing the small things at such a high level,
Adds up.
and it adds up to that atomic goal.
I will say there are points, whatever passion you in, because I've been there, y'all been there. That's why we are or been where we've been, to where you get into like elite mode when you locked in that grind. And if you really lock in on your stuff, you're going to leave Earth.
Yeah.
And it's going to put you at a point to where you're just that much above everybody else. So that's the times you do got to do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Bron talks about, like the amount of money that he puts into his body in comparison to what other NBA players put into their body. You see the sum of those investments.
Right.
Because he could have been another 6'8" guy that was good the first 5 to 7 years of his life.
True.
Yeah.
And he could have won a couple MVPs, maybe one championship, and then he could have had a whole bunch of injuries, and then all of a sudden he's at the end of the bench. That could have been his story.
Right.
But the fact that he's putting $2 or $3 million into his body shows you the persistence and the faith that you have in yourself.
Yeah.
Because nobody's not going to put that amount of money into themselves if they truly don't believe in their talent.
And he the big dog.
Right.
Like,
So if it's big enough, if he's humble enough to admit that, hey, I got to continue to work at year 20, and you 5 years in from being a rookie, and you don't feel like you got to do this and do that, that's a time to revitalize yourself. Yeah. Before we close it out, we can't have this conversation about this. Love with an intimate partner. So, through the process of dating, courting, whether you are engaged or married or whatever it may be, Shaun, what did you learn most about love from being a single man in high school, going to college, meeting your wife, getting engaged, getting married? How did your perspective on love shift through that paradigm?
It's definitely grown. But like I said, I feel like what I saw when I was younger, I know I wanted to implement that with my wife, my future wife. And I knew once I was married, I'm turning into �𝐤𝐚𝐢𝐥 Draughn. And that's going to be me. And, love is also the way it transitions is not prideful. You can't be prideful. It's it's sacrifice, more sacrificial from the standpoint of you got to die to yourself almost, because you have to be able to love this person the way they want to be loved. And, my perspective, I thought I was loving my wife the right way because of what my love language was.
But you have to really tap in and see what
I got to tap
need.
in and see what they need.
For sure.
Like, what you mean I ain't loving you? No, I'm
Oh yeah,
you don't see what I'm doing?
Right.
No,
Food on the table.
But that's not the way she.
I need to be held. I need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I'm
need
the
to be
one.
affirmed.
I'm the physical one. Yeah. So we had to come to Jesus about that. 'Cause in the same vein, like, she's not very touchy feely. She is now.
Okay.
But I was like, I don't even know if she liked me or not at certain times because that's not her love language.
Right.
But yeah, it's learning. Intimate love is learning the way the other person needs to be loved. I think is really the biggest thing. And of course, you sprinkle in your way too, because that's how you get
a little bit of me in there.
Yeah, you still got to be you.
Right.
But just taking in and understanding that the other person needs to be loved a certain way too.
What about you, Keith? What have you learned most about your perspective on love as you progress through the dating, the phases of dating in your life?
I think I would say that it's inconvenient. I think that when you feel something for someone that's like super strong, when you're willing to go out your way to do certain things that you normally, you would never do. And especially during times that you would never do it, it just almost stops everything for the most part, and you work around it. And I think that's what I kind of have picked up on, and also being there to be a support system and understanding, like he was saying, learning how they need to be treated and need to be loved, and listening to them. And it's not even about what they say. It's about, just subtle things, what they do and how they respond to certain things. I think that's the biggest form of listening is the stuff that they don't say. Because especially with women, they're gonna say a lot, but they're not gonna say everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're gonna leave a lot for you to figure out. And if you're not aware, then you're gonna be lost in the sauce big time.
Absolutely.
That just went into what I was gonna say, because this is like a lot of people like to say. I'm gonna just say this: communication and comprehension are like one and the same. They're needed. They're married.
Very well needed.
Because we've been taught, and we really hadn't been taught like that. Communication is key. That is very
Especially
key.
for men.
For real. Like, we have to communicate. Like, I was really feeling sentiments of what you were saying. Like, I'm the same person, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I need these touches. I need these, you know what I'm saying? And then it's like you might have somebody who's just not in a bad way, more masculine, not touchy-feely, but you got to teach them your ways and they have to understand it. So it's a lot of communication, understanding. And I've grown, you know, answer to the question, you know, experience is the best teacher. Like, throughout, like, the relationship that I had when I was 18, you know, or 21 is not the relationship that I'm going to have at 36, you know, because I'm not that same person in relationship, you know, relationship wise. I've grown. So like I could take something that would have ticked me off back then, and now I'll be like, wait, let's sit down and talk about this. You know, nowadays I'm like, well, I want to, I want to hear what you got to say, but I'm like, wait, don't get mad or don't be scared. Tell me, because you're going to teach me how I need to, like, the things that I don't need to do and how I can love you better. And it's very shocking on the other end. Like, I told somebody that recently, like, I like the way you communicate. It's just so calm. I'm like, well, I don't want to be mad. You know, like maybe back then I probably would have enjoyed the argument. You know, but now I'm like, let's really talk about it.
Back then I was trying to get active.
That's too real though.
I'm trying to get active back then.
I used to do this. The most childish thing I used to do, the silent treatment. So, you know,
hey, I'm still childish then.
I'm working towards. I gotta get
I used to give silent treatment.
You dating?
I'm seeing somebody right now,
So the ghosting, like you experiencing the ghosting phase, and so that's what the single life is about.
I tried it.
You tried to date.
I tried the ghosting thing.
You tried the ghosting thing, and it don't work.
Yeah, it's like at this point, I just don't even want to play with anybody's time anymore.
Facts.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I really that feels
playing with
really
yours at the end of the day.
exactly, and it's like it's just you just don't want to do that.
It's draining.
You just got to have a certain level of respect for people. And younger, I probably didn't take that as serious, but I definitely take it like really serious now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Well, amazing conversation, fellas. We tapped on family, friendships, intimate partners. We talked on self-love. We touched on everything, man. Unconditional love, and I think a man's first experience of love is a foundation or a block or a cornerstone for the type of love he's going to exude throughout his life.
Absolutely.
Through all relationships, through all paradigms and all different types of relationships.
Sure.
So it's important for us to come from good seed, from good soil. And if we don't, and we feel like there's some area of improvement, we have to put in the work to make sure we get to that level that we want to get to as men, because that's our responsibility.
Absolutely.
So much love, man. It was an amazing conversation, fellas. Very in depth. Yeah. And one of my favorite ones.
Cool, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was good.
Man of your caliber.
At first,
we went over time too.
It's good. Hey, it's good. Sometimes it needs to be said, man. So clap it up, fellas.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. That was good, man.
That was good,
Shaun.
For my brothers never had an ear to hear them. These the bricks for our sisters help us build it. If I could be a black fly on the wall, I can hear and see it all and have the mind of a god. Black, 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 black. Fly, 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 fly. Black, black, black.